Ta-da! There's my
recording
screen.
has started. We are recording this so that we can post it on our YouTube channel, and it will be...
Uh-oh, I forgot to change the name of the slide. I changed Stan's name, but I forgot to change the name of the slide.
Oh, well.
Those of you who are used to coming to my webinars are probably used to me either misspelling something or forgetting something. And for those of you who are joining us today, who joined us for my last webinar, thank you so much for coming back. And I have not spilled anything on my keyboard yet.
Yes, and...
It's not document sharing, as you see there in front of you. Our webinar today and our discussion and training is going to be on building a free GIS out of using an AutoCAD SDF file. So since that's the wrong slide, let's go over some of the housekeeping stuff.
Let's go over the housekeeping. Now, if you're hearing us, which I hope you are, then you've either got your mic and speakers or your phone selected. You can minimize the console by hitting the little now orange and white arrow rather than black double arrow, and get that out of the way so you can see the screen. You can raise your hand if you like, although I'm not going to guarantee we'll pay any attention to it. And most importantly, during the webinar, excuse me, during the webinar, you're free to ask questions and type those in on the question log, and then we will try to answer them as closely to in context so they make sense as possible. So I hope you enjoy the webinar today, and Warren, take her away.
We definitely, you're not only free to ask questions, we encourage you to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Just to do a sound check for everybody, if you can hear me, please click the raise your hand icon on your GoToWebinar panel so I know that we're actually getting through.
It looks like
the vast majority of you are raising your hands. Good.
Most
So anybody
of you
else
are,
is
so
either
good.
not hearing us or they don't care.
They're down the hall talking to colleagues.
Yep. Okay, great. That being the case, let's move in here. Now, also, sometimes I will have little surveys to ask people, but with what we're doing today, I did not feel capable of building a survey that would ask the right questions. So today's objective is basically going to be building your own GIS from Civil 3D, from all AutoCAD data, from even shapefiles. If at the end of this you would like more information or more content, then please definitely give us a call or send us an email. The email address is at the bottom of the screen currently, and at the end of the webinar, we'll post that one again.
Yep.
Now, my last webinar was about document management, about taking all your information and trying to manage it properly, and this is an extension of that webinar. In the last one, we talked about all these different forms of data, what you could do with them, what you can't do with them, what you need to do with them, how to work with them, how to compile them, how to keep some things in GIS, yada, yada, yada. But during that process, one of the things I did talk about was migrating some of your data, if not all of it, into an SDF file, and I pretty much left it there. I think I threw out one or two things. Well, today I'm going to talk to you and show you exactly what you need to do in order to get it into an SDF file, in order to manage your database properly.
And if you would like to watch that previous webinar, it should be on our CAD-1 YouTube page by now. You can find the webinar archives on our website or go to YouTube and find the CAD-1 channel.
Yeah, we've got a brand new website, so definitely come and take a look at our brand new website. I like the layout, by the way. So we've got different options, and that, I think my slide was backwards there. So I've got different options for creating the free GIS, but mostly it's going to be all as a SDF file. So I'm going to show you how to push the information in, what's important, what's not important, and then I'm going to talk about how you're going to manage this SDF file, managing your data. And by managing your data, I mean working with it, adding to it, changing the names of things, editing the schema, basically. Exporting your GIS database, because everybody else is going to want to share your data. So you're going to start building up something for project use or something along those lines, and then somebody, a city or county agency or your best friend's mom is going to say, hey, I really like this, so why don't you send it to me as a shapefile? So I'll show you the quick workaround on how to do that. Now let's start with Civil 3D objects. And this is going to be very similar to the slides that you saw last time, but they're still very relevant. So the two types of information that you're going to be sharing, this is going to be one of them. And by sharing, I mean we're building our own GIS. You've gone out there and you said, you know what, we want to build database. I want to start plugging in all my projects or all of my information or everything that we've got from every CAD file since the dawn of time, and I want to build a database and just have a big GIS. And then you go out and you take a look at some of the prices, and you're going, and you can't afford $50,000 or $100,000 on the software, and you go, there's got to be an easier way, and that's where this is. If you've got Civil 3D or if you've got AutoCAD MAP, you've got a free GIS. If you've got Civil 3D, starting to build the GIS is one button click away. With MAP, it might be an extra step if you get Civil 3D drawings in. And then going back, if like I said, if you've got MAP or if you've got Civil 3D, now we're going to the suites. If you've got any of the infrastructure design suites, you'll have MAP in there, so you can do this. Yes, if you've got one of the other suites, or if you've got plain AutoCAD, well, you're not going to be able to do this. So you might want to give us a call, talk to one of the salespeople about how cheap it is to get just from AutoCAD up to MAP, or maybe to get you in one of those low-range suites. So if you do have Civil 3D, this is the option that you need to use. And for those of you who want to do this and you've got MAP and you don't have Civil 3D, this is what you need to tell your consultants to do. Okay, they're going to send you their Civil 3D files. You guys can see them, you can print them, but you want to get that information into your GIS. So you say, hey guys, in your output ribbon, you've got a big button there. It says Export Civil Objects to SDF. If you've got Civil 3D and you open up one of your drawings or theirs, it's in the output ribbon, Export Civil Objects to SDF. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Now the downside is that as you see there on the next slide, there's only certain things that you're going to be able to export. So out of this Civil schema, and the schema basically is just the name for the database. That's what we call it, the whole database or the whole template of everything that we're putting into a GIS. So don't panic whenever you hear the word schema. It's basically your database format. Think of it that way, sort of like your drawing format, your layers and everything. So your schema, out of the drawing, what can I pull out of Civil 3D? Well, only alignments, parcels, pipes, points, and structures, which is, that's a lot of good stuff. You're still going to have a lot of AutoCAD stuff that you're going to want to throw in there, and that's going to be important. I'm going to spend more time with that than I'll spend with this. So when you get this exported, and you export the schema, notice that it's going to tell a coordinate system. If you have not assigned a coordinate system to your drawing, bad you. You need to assign a coordinate system. You should. And then you get to tell the program which parts of my project that I want to send out. And I've got to stress this. Remember your coordinate systems. You've really got to do this, because if you start to build this off of files or off of drawings that don't have coordinate systems, you're just going to get a mixed mash of things flying all over the place, and you're not going to know what you're doing. So figure out what coordinate system your original data is in. Now, Warren, does that mean that my SDF file has to have a coordinate system assigned to it? Yes. What if I change my mind? No worries. Change your mind in a minute. Not a problem. But you do want to pick some coordinate system to start with. And it could be any coordinate system. If you've seen InfraWorks, or what used to be Autodesk Infrastructure Modeler, you know that it can handle data on any coordinate system. We can do the same thing. You also know that InfraWorks actually works off of lat and long.
Great, great program, by the way. Great
really cool program. But it works off of lat and long, so you don't have to really worry about the coordinate systems. It's already figuring everything out for you, and this is what it's working in. For everybody else, because we want this in state plane, we want this in our own coordinate system, you've got to figure out what you want to start with. So Colorado, NAD 83, or Wyoming, NAD 83, or Harn, or something like that. Figure it out. I think I've done a webinar on coordinate systems, and I'm probably going to be doing one again soon. All right, when you do get Civil 3D, and you do get an SDF file from somebody else, or you do it, what do you get? What are you allowed to use? Okay, points, obviously survey points. And this is the information that comes in it. You've got your description, number, elevation, latitude, and longitude. Now, you'll only have the lat and long if you've assigned a coordinate system to the drawing. But the X and Y and Z are embedded into the actual point. So your important things are the number, description, raw description if it's different, elevation. Not a lot of information. Parcels, cool. Got all this great parcel data. What am I going to get? Nothing. Parcel name, area, and perimeter. You want a lot of more info. You want a lot of more. You want a lot of more information in there. Okay, that's my next section that I'm going to be showing you how to add a lot of more information.
I remember a lot of more. She was a great film star, Italian film star back in the 50s.
I think I saw one of her films, a lot of more.
She was on the cover of Life. Anyway,
I remember seeing that edition. On alignments, you've got the name, the length, starting station, ending station, and design speed. That's pretty cool, but you may want to throw some extra stuff in there, obviously. And then pipes, you've obviously got more, because there's more to go with pipes. Inverts, materials, all that good kind of stuff. So these are the kinds of things. Oh, forgot about the pipes with the structures. These are the kinds of things that you're going to get out of Civil 3D. So if we're talking just about civil engineering projects, using Civil 3D, then it's really straightforward. You can export, build in SDF files. So this is where you can start if you want to. Not a problem there. If you don't want to start here, you're going to start the way that I'm going to show you, and then you can grab this stuff and merge it in there. This is the way that I like to do it. I like to start with AutoCAD objects.
Now, Warren, let me ask you, should people remember to use a coordinate system when they're doing this?
Let me think about that for a second. Remember your coordinate systems. Those of you who know me, those of you who heard me get up on my soapbox and get up on my ranting, one of my biggest issues, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be going out and doing a presentation at GIS in the Rockies this year. Normally my presentation is all about CAD and GIS and integration, but this time I'm going on a rant, and I'm going to start talking about coordinate systems. Not only coordinate systems for the uneducated for AutoCAD and CAD users, but coordinate systems for the GIS people who think they know what they are and they really don't. So above all else, folks, coordinate systems are a huge, huge deal. Grid to ground.
We may have to buy you a new soapbox after that one.
No kidding. I'm stamping on this thing. So what we're going to do here momentarily is the way that I like to start when I want to build my database, my SDF files, I just start with AutoCAD objects. If you do have that SDF file from Civil 3D, great. Put it off to the side for the time being. But let's start here because this gives us a better look, view, and feel for what we're going to do and what we're going to build. Okay. So with that, I'm going to Alt-Tab over here. Okay, so this, oh man, not this drawing again. So this is the drawing that I use in training and in webinars all the time. This is my typical civil engineering project. Yes, we have exported this, and in my last webinar, we exported this and the information into an SDF file, brought it back in, showed you what you could do. So I'm not going to do that this time. Here's what I'm going to do. This is actually not a Civil 3D drawing file. This is now just a plain AutoCAD drawing. No Civil 3D surfaces. It's going to be lines, arcs, circles, polylines, text. Not that you all don't have 1,000 of these and you want to incorporate this information into a central database. Good idea to do. All right, so a couple things that I'm going to need to do before I work with this. Guess what the first one is, Stan?
Move the cursor around.
Move the cursor around? No, that was close. But remember your coordinate systems.
I forgot.
You forgot already. See, that's why I put it there.
That's why they have me in sales.
Do not let them touch this, folks. Remember your coordinate systems. I get done with the project. I need to make sure that this is in a proper coordinate system. There are a lot of ways of doing that. What if it was drawn in a proper coordinate system? And this is in a proper coordinate system. Well, whoops, I forgot to turn on my John Madden pointer here. Hang on a sec. One of these days, somebody's going to tell John about this. He's going to see our thing, and he's going to come beat me up. Okay, so coordinate system, none. Yeah, I drew this in a coordinate system. It's in state plane. The surveyor gave me this. Said it was in state plane. That's nice. You got to tell the program that you're using a coordinate system, because otherwise none of that's going to do any good. So in my map setup, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to tell the program what coordinate system that I was using when I drew this guy up. Got a list of several thousand coordinate systems that I can come from. Here's the cool thing when assigning coordinate systems is I can just type in a search value. Okay, I know I'm in Colorado. I could just start typing Colorado. and it's just going to filter down to the Colorado coordinate systems. So if you know that your data was drawn and designed and created all in a known coordinate system, you just reach over here and you can pick it out of the list. Colorado supports NAD 83, NAD 27, and the HARN coordinate systems. Just got to figure out which one it is. Pick that, hit assign. Okay, that's great. Now, whoops, what if I didn't have a coordinate system? What if it was at 5,000, 5,000, 5,000? Well, you're going to need to pick everything else up, move it to the appropriate locations, maybe do some, a little bit of rubber sheeting or some transforming just to make sure it gets into a coordinate system. But if this point is at 0, 0, or at 5,000, 5,000, okay, we're going to stop the webinar now and everything is going to go away. So step number 1, get that coordinate system going. Step number 2, clean up your drawing. You do not want, nor can you place all of this information into a database, into a GIS database. A lot of this profiles, I mean, a lot of this stuff is junk. So I've got to go through and I've got to clean up all of my layers, and I've got to figure out which layers that I want and which layers that I don't want. Now, if you've used Civil 3D, or even if you haven't, you've been working with the NCS, National CAD Standards Layering Guidelines, you're going to see a list of layers similar to this. This is the template that comes right out of Civil 3D, and it's a small list. I mean, we don't have, whoops, get back here. We don't have that many layers, really? And people are going, yeah, that's what you say. But for those of you who have actually adopted the NCS layering, you can see hundreds of layers in the drawing. I don't want to have to deal with hundreds of layers in the drawing. You know what I want? I want the center lines for the roads. I want the parcels. I want the utilities. Problem is with NCS layering, even one utility, storm sewer, can be placed on 15 different layers. You know, you got storm pipe center, storm pipe this. We don't want all of that, and I don't want to have to deal with it. So therefore, one of the next things we're going to do, first thing being the coordinate system, so therefore, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to clean this up, and I'm going to get it down to just the layers that I want to work with. For this, CAD management tool number 1, layer translator. And if you all have not used that layer translator before, today's the day you want to start playing with it. Layer translator, what does it do? It translates layers. Well, that wasn't hard. What does it do for translating layers? When I start this little program, on the left-hand side is a list of all 10,000 layers that somebody gave me that are in my company template. I don't want all 10,000 layers. You know, I want to filter this down. So I've already filtered it down by building a drawing with a handful of layers that I want to use. Notice it's a drawing that I've built. It wasn't saved as a drawing. It was saved as a drawing standards file. It could be saved as a drawing, as you see down here. I could have saved it as a drawing, as a standards file, as a template. I like, if I'm going to do this, I like saving them as a standards file. So if you do this right, I've done this once or twice in other webinars, and if anybody wants to get a little bit of training on this, be more than happy to do it online. But if you do this right and you set it up, all of your existing layers on the left will automatically map themselves to the appropriate layers on the right. Basically, it's grab a layer on the left, pick the layer on the right, hit this little map button, and go and do it again. Now, I've already automated this because I didn't figure you all want to sit here and watch me do this for 30 minutes. But once you've done this, you can save that mapping information like I did, and when you load it, it automatically maps it. The important thing to note here, everyone, is look at the layers that I want to use on the right. I don't see sanitary sewer, line, this, that, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I want the lines that came from the storm, the lines that came from the road, the property lines. I want points that came from this. There are 3 types of features that you can have in a GIS database: a line feature, a point feature, and a polygon feature. Now I'm going to show you how we're going to fix this guy in a minute.
Well, I think this is so important, Warren, you know, in all seriousness, because, you know, we do these webinars and invariably we get 1 or 2 people who go, well, I want something totally different than what you showed me. Those are the only things I can have. And it's like, no, you can have what you want. You know, you define what you want, but here are the features that you can use in that regard.
Exactly, yeah. So that's a good point. when you're doing this, you can have, what I'm doing here on the right-hand side is I'm doing two things at once. And what you can do is you can define any, what we call a feature class, or in AutoCAD we call them layers. Here's storm, here's sanitary, here's water. You can do that any number of layers, feature classes that you want. But what's most important is out of those layers, you have to split things down into 3 types. Not 1, not 15, 3 types. If you've only got 1, you can use it, but no more than 3. GIS data will accept points. So what makes up a point in water lines? Valves, manholes, hydrants, any block, anything with a single point, that's a point. Okay, what makes up lines? Lines. And what makes up polygons? Usually for polygons, we're talking areas. So we're talking things like property lines, lot lines, etc. Those are the only 3 things, polygons, lines, points, that you can plug into a GIS database. Okay, so when I did this, I said, take all of the layers that have to do with my sanitary, manholes, or my storm, as an example, the manholes, the outlets, the inlet structures, etc. For water, all the valves, all the fire hydrants, everything on all 20 layers. Just take every one of those appurtenances, put them on 1 layer. That's all I'm concerned with, 1 layer, because it's got to go here. Now that I've done that, I'm going to hit translate. Since I've already saved this, I'm going to translate this only, and voila. Now I've cleaned up my drawing so that I've got 1 layer called junk, which is junk that I'm not going to throw in here, a layer for topo, all the topo lines, in case somebody does want this. Like if somebody's using an Esri database, they may want this. Esri can take it. But mostly I've isolated just the stuff that I want. So if I come in here and I start freezing the layers that I do not want, getting rid of some of this junk, the layer 0 stuff, I come down here and I've cleaned it up. So I've got my road lines. Look, I've got my storm lines with my manholes, etc. I've got some text with some hatch patterns on it. Once again, AutoCAD commands. I'm just using AutoCAD to clean this stuff up. Select similar and delete those guys. Now I've got text. And I can grab that text and I can push it out and use it if I want to. So using a couple of AutoCAD tools. We're not using GIS fancy tools. We just use AutoCAD tools. Layer translator, layer isolate, delete layer, that kind of thing, purge layer. I'm managing to clean up my data, and this is just the stuff that I want to start throwing in. Now, what about situations where, okay, I've got my parcel lines, but my parcel lines are all broken up into millions of pieces, and honestly, if I need a polygon, I don't have a polygon, and I want to sit here doing p-edit and all the rest of that nonsense. All right, pretty easy. I'm going to isolate that layer. Okay, AutoCAD command, layer isolate. And I'm sure a lot of people have already figured this type of step out, but just to show you how easy this is, I'm going to grab all of those objects and I'm going to put them on layer 0. I'm going to come down here to my lines property, which is my current layer. Okay, these parcels in here, my property parcels, these are the ones that are important. So those of you who've never heard of this command, it's a really fun command. It's called boundary command. Not B, D, O, there. The boundary command, shortcut is BO. Boundary creation. What I do is I say I want a polyline out of here. I want to say take points, and then I'm just going to go bang, 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 pick, 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 pick. See how fast this is? I'm not trying to do any weird drawing cleanup stuff. I'm not trying to match lines. I'm not redrawing anything or doing p-edits. And by the time I'm done with that sentence, I hit enter. And each one of these, each one of these becomes its own separate polyline.
So if you've had trouble setting boundaries in your life, it should be no more.
That's right. Everybody needs to learn how to set boundaries in their life. After this, This is a real cool, easy, fast AutoCAD command. Just bang, bang, bang. They're all in a proper layer. They're all the right information. So you see, just using AutoCAD commands, I can take a civil engineering project. What about those storm lines that had 2 lines instead of 1? Okay, just use an AutoCAD line command, connect the dots, get rid of the other ones. Just simple, easy stuff. Cleaning this up shouldn't take that long. Cleaning up your projects really shouldn't take that long, especially once you've got a system set up. Once you've got that system set up, then you've got an option to take it and bring it in all into another drawing. So
holy cow, Warren, the whole city of Denver?
The whole city of Denver. The whole city. Let me show you. And you might recognize that. Okay, so we've got it. Now we've had it set at a proper coordinate system with the proper rotation angle. A moment ago, it was at like 5,000, 5,000 or something. But let's say I had it at a proper coordinate system. Everything's organized. I've cleaned up all the layers. There's my parcels. There's my utilities that I've cleaned up. I've got my blocks. Everybody's on the appropriate layer. And now I can place it, as long as it's in the right location, I can do things like say, okay, bring in all the parcels or all the streets for the entire city of Denver, and I can just lay it right up on top of my parcel. Why? Because it's in a proper coordinate system. I can't stress coordinate systems enough. So now that I want to see it, I set up a nice, neat little view for it. And everybody's going to go, wow, that's a GIS thing. All right, everybody, no panicking. My view ribbon, named views. If you're going to do stuff in GIS, everybody right now, learn named views. Write them down on a piece of paper. Say, I got to go back and learn this. Named views. Go into named views, and I just create a brand new view. What does that do? It takes my viewport right out here, makes a snapshot out of it, and gives it a name. And it puts it in this nice, neat little toolbar right there. Why? Because you can't see my subdivision, can you? Where is that subdivision inside the entire city of Denver? Well, I double-click my view. There's the subdivision right there. Named views, huge. This is an old AutoCAD for DOS thing, but a lot of people have never learned it or they've forgotten it over time. And in case you're wondering, how did he go from those lines for the streets to those cool lines that actually look like streets? That has to do with styles, and I'll probably be doing that on a future webinar. So there's my information. There's my parcels. There's my storm information. It lines up great. Now I want to start pushing it into an SDF. As I showed you earlier in the slideshow, we need to use the map export command and push this into an SDF file. Let me see if I've got anything extra in that slideshow. Can't remember what exactly I put in here. No, that's managing my schema. I'll get back to that in a moment. So pushing this out, I've got to use the map export command. You might think it would be in this output ribbon where all my output stuff is, but no. Just to keep you confused and disoriented, we're going to come over here, the big blue A, come down to export. At the very bottom where it's hidden, other GIS formats. Now, if I wanted to, I could use this and go to SDF, but the nice thing is with the later releases, they've just put this guy here for me, so I'm going to use that. Here's the first dialog box that pops up. So I'm going to give this guy a name of Warren. So that's my SDF. That's my database that I want to start building, and I'm going to start plugging everything into it. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to do this one at a time first just to show you what you can do. Select objects that you want to export. My personal preference is always go off of one layer at a time to figure out what you want to do, but just so you know, you can go off of multiple layers as long as you pay attention to what you're doing. So I'm going to go with the lines property. I'm going to start with property lines first. I'm going to go to the feature classes. This is where things can get really, really complicated and convoluted. Right now I'm going to say I want to create a single feature class from everything because I'm only picking one thing. Had I picked multiple layers, when I come in here, it's going to drop everything down into one feature class. Don't want to do that. I want to create multiple feature classes. Remember, definition time, feature class means layer in AutoCAD. So I'm going to create one file with multiple layers. I want to take each one of these layers and map them to that layer. Cool thing is that I can rename them at this time, and I can do a bunch of other cool things. Now, I'm not going to do that right now because I want to show you something else that's pretty cool. So come back here. I'm just going to do the property lines to start with. Feature class. I don't want them to be called line property. I'm just going to rename this and call it lots, parcels, whatever. So far, so good. Here's what I'm taking out. Here's what I want it to be named. Here's where we can trip up and hurt ourselves. An SDF file allows you to plug in under one layer or one feature class points, lines, and polygons. Sort of like AutoCAD can, right? AutoCAD, you can put anything you want to on any layer. I can put points, polygons, lines, splines, anything I want to. GIS, no, that doesn't play too well. Now, if I'm building my own GIS and nobody is ever going to touch it, I'm never going to share this with anybody, there's no reason I can't do this right now. Say points, lines, and polygons. If you think that at any point ever in the future somebody's going to want your information, you need to give it to them in a shapefile usually. Guess what? A shapefile only supports one at a time. Just one. That's why I broke the layers down, everybody, into one layer for points, water, lines, water, etc. So if you do this, do not leave the default on. Please say, this is exactly what I want to export. Now this one is polygons. Why? Because I turned all of those parcel lines into polygons. If they're just individual lines, that's not going to work. Still with me here? Okay. I also want to select the attributes that I want to send out. Now attributes can include block attributes, object data if you decided to use it, if you have it in there, or just AutoCAD properties. Okay, what kind of property would I want to send out with parcel? I don't know. How about the area? Wouldn't that be nice? I could put layer names, areas, anything that comes with AutoCAD. And for special properties, like P-line gen and all of those, I can come in here under the extended properties and throw out a whole bunch of extra stuff. So you get to tell the program what it is you want to send out. And then the most important thing as far as polygons go, and this is also overlooked. This is a complaint I get all the time. Treat closed polylines in AutoCAD, closed polylines, as polygons. Why is that there? And many, many, many years ago, Autodesk decided to do something clever, and if you were using map, you couldn't use a polygon. It would turn it into an intelligent map object called an M polygon, and they thought, this is really, really clever, and everybody's going to want to use it, and it failed miserably. But it's still there. So the program's automatically going to look for those M polygons. A lot of people don't even know that they're there anymore. You've got to tell the program, no, I don't have any of those. Please grab my closed polygons and polylines and throw those out there. If you don't check this box and you hit OK, when it's done it says 0 objects exported. And you might just pull your hair up because you're looking at your drawing going, not 0 objects, I've got 20,000 parcels. Remember to do this. Last thing, coordinate systems. Let me get up on my soapbox again, Stan.
Okay.
Come on. Coordinate systems. Remember, if I've got a coordinate system, I want to use it. If I don't want my SDF file to be the same coordinate system, I'm going to change it here and it'll map it out for me. If I do want it to be the same coordinate system, well, I'll leave this guy blank and my SDF file now becomes this. Hopefully that was relatively straightforward. And then the best thing I love about all the AutoCAD map stuff is saving what you're doing. Man, save this and then you can do it over and over and over and over and over again. So let me hit OK. It's going to create that SDF file. 21 objects of 21 selected, exported, 21 total objects exported, didn't say 0. Oh darn, what about the storm stuff? All right, so let's start that command again. But here's what I wanted to show you. I don't have to do 15 SDF files. This is the one that I just created a few moments ago. Wow, is it really 1036? Better start talking faster. This is the one I just created a few moments ago. And pick that, hit OK. And this is something I can do with SDS that I can't do with anything else. I can append to them. So you all don't have to do 15 different SDF files. You can just keep adding to it and adding to it. So I want to append to it. This time, the layers that I want to use are the storm layers. feature classes. I'm going to say create multiple, and I do want to keep line storm, point storm, or storm lines. I could change it, but it's important, once again, geometry. This has got to be a line. This has got to be a point. Okay. I'm not worried about the option. I don't have any closed polylines, etc. But again, if I'm doing this over and over and over again, I want to save my profile. Hit OK. 10 total objects exported in that amount of time. So what on earth did I just do? Start a blank brand new drawing, and I'm going to take a peek at it. I'm going to connect to it. Where's that SDF file that I just created? And build GIS, and I thought I put it in here. Uh-oh. Where did I put it, Stan? Where'd it go?
I don't know, Warren.
Well, let's find out where Warren put it.
There.
In the wrong folder under Map Data Tools. That was my last webinar. Map. Data Tools. There it is. Still thinking about my last webinar. So there's the file that I just created. Connect to it. Take a look at what I've got. I've got my lots, my points, my lines. There's my whole schema of all 3 feature classes. Now, something else to always remember. The other cool thing about SDF files is they can have multiple feature classes. As you see here, shapefiles cannot do that. 1 feature type, 1 feature class. Say add map. There's my parcels. Something. Oh, great. Don't you love the default colors? Love those colors. Yellow. Now I know if you've got a black background, that's fine, but I don't have a black background. All right. Right. What the heck was that? Did you see that?
I did. It was like a virtual poltergeist.
It was. Something just jumped up in front of us. Okay. So there's my parcels. There's my storm lines. I've got my storm appurtenances. I think I missed something in there. Maybe I missed a layer or something, but that's not important. I've got my line work. I've got it in here as a GIS. As you see, I can hover over it, and I've got data. What type of data do I have? Well, come over here to my properties window. Right now, for my feature properties, you will see that I don't have any feature properties because that was just a plain AutoCAD line. So the next thing I want to show everybody pretty quickly is editing the schema. Okay, now that I've got this information in here, it's good lines, it's good database, I can make this as big as I want to. I want to edit the schema. Now by editing the schema, that means I want to add attributes to, notice which tab I'm on, I want to add attributes to that storm line or to the parcels or something else. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to edit the schema so that I can modify that information. Notice the tab that I was on, Map Explorer, there's my SDF, schema, and I'm going to edit the schema. Edit the schema. Water time. Okay, so there's my schema, there's my feature classes, there's the information that I've got with my feature classes. As you see, not a lot. Like with my lots, there's the area. Okay, can add that in there. So the storm lines. Wouldn't it be nice if I knew what the material was? Okay, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to add new properties. So when you want to add new attributes, this is how you do it. Just right-click and I'm going to add new properties. Note for everybody, do not press this button or that button until you are completely done with what you're doing in here. Because once I do, I've committed those changes and I cannot go back. So this first property, I'm going to call it material. Data type, as you see here, strings, or I can put numeric values. Another hint for everybody is if you think that you're going to be sharing with anybody using shapefiles. Shapefiles can only take strings, an integer 16 or an integer 32 for numbers. Okay, don't get carried away here. Also, shapefiles can only take 10 characters for names of attributes, but we can fix that as we're doing an export. But the other thing that I really like is I only have certain types of materials, so I want to build a list view for them. So I'm going to edit this list down here, and I want to say, what storm was this? Okay, so it was a storm, right? Corrugated metal pipe, reinforced concrete pipe, PVC, okay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to get too carried away. I can add to this list at any time. I just cannot change anything in here once I've committed this. I'm going to hit OK because I don't like hitting apply. Reach out and grab one of my storm lines, come back to Properties window, and now you'll see Material. What's cool is I've got a drop down for the material. I don't have to type in anything. So what if that's RCP? What if the rest of them are CMP? I can grab multiple at the same time, come over here and say, okay, you are now all CMP. See how the drop downs and managing, this is managing your data. Now some of this I had shown in the last webinar, which is why I'm going a little bit fast on this one, because I want to show you something that's important when you're doing this. So adding in attributes. You're going to be using, oh, and I love this one. This is something else that people like doing. They're going to come over here, schema, and I want to edit that schema, and whoop, you get a warning message. Okay, so I've modified objects. I can't edit the schema until I check everything back in. Okay, I'll come back in here. There's a line storm. That was the points. There's a line storm. I've added in the material. Now notice when I pick material, I cannot change the name, the data, or a lot of this information anymore. So once you've done it, it's carved in granite. I can, however, modify my list. Like I said, I can edit the list view and add, etc. You cannot remove values from the list view if you've already put them in your database somewhere. So now that I've put in RCP, I can't take it out of there. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. How many attributes can we put on? Unlimited. Can we keep adding attributes on for the rest of your life? Yes. What about renaming attributes, changing attributes, etc.? So that's the next thing I want to talk about quickly. I build this whole thing. Somebody looks over my shoulder and goes, you know, I'm not crazy about that. I want you to change the names of some of the attributes. I want you to remove some of these attributes, flip some of these other guys around, and do some other stuff. Okay? First thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use this button to export a schema. Okay, so I'm going to export a schema. There's mine, and exported civil schema as an example. I've already done that. Now, I'm going to say, okay, boss, that's fine. Now what do I need to do is I need to import that schema into a new file. How do I do a new file? Right here, create an SDF. I'm going to call it Warren New. Give it a coordinate system. Hit OK. There's that schema, which I'm going to delete. And I'm going to import the schema that I just exported a little while ago. Okay, so there's the schema that I just exported a while ago. Yeah, and this is that schema right out of Civil 3D. So I'm kind of cheating here. But let's say that now that I've exported one schema, I re-import it, and now I can edit all of this. Why? Because I don't have anything in the file. So if somebody says I don't like the name of an attribute, I export it and I import it into a blank file. I can now change names. I can delete these. I can't reorder them. I wish I could. I can add in all of these options, and I can change these all day long.
So if you hit OK or apply accidentally, this is how you atone for your sins?
This is how you atone for your sins. And then, you know, and I wouldn't panic, and I wouldn't do this right after I made one mistake. I just go ahead and fill out all the things that you possibly can on your schema, and then write down what it is you want to change. And this is cool, everybody, because if any of you work with Esri software, or somebody who works with Esri software, they can't do this. Not without disabling their database. What is that called when you remove the database or unhinge the database, something along those lines, and they need to use SQL programming to do it, otherwise they're going to break everything. So let's say that I've already made all these changes. This is a great idea. Cool. Now I want to cancel that out. Whoops. Actually, I didn't want to do that. Schemas, schema 1. Oh, well. Let me do that again very quickly. Sorry about that. SDF, or new, save, yes, I want to replace it. See how fast I can go with this? So if you do make a mistake, not a big deal. I'm going to delete that schema. Yes, I'm going to import a new schema, which I've already imported, built, and tweaked. So I'm tweaking the schema. Now this guy's blank. I'm going to hit OK. Now I've attached to this file this Warren new. So as you see over here on the right, so I'm attached to my original. I'm attached to my Warren new. So what I need to do is get everything from my original into the new one. I'm going to use this tool right here called bulk copy. Bulk copy does just that. It says take everything in this database and shove it over here. Take everything over here in my original SDF and shove it over here into the Warren new. What do I want to shove over there? Well, the lots maybe, the lines, the points, etc. Now, I couldn't do this. Okay. Now one thing that I can't show you right here, unfortunately, and I'll tell you why it's broken. But what you're supposed to be able to do is once I've chosen the schema, I can come over here and pick that different name that I used, and I can start using those little drop downs that you see right here. And I can say, look, in lots, they're actually called parcels. So I can map one name over here to a different name over there. Map one name over here to a completely different name over there. Now, let me tell you why this isn't working. Very important for those of you in 2014 who want to do this. You'll notice that if I click on the first down arrow, nothing's happening. Okay, there is a workaround. I can actually pick inside there, and you'll notice that I can edit the text. So if I know all of the names and I've written them down, I can actually type them in here. Not what I really want to do. I want to pick them out of a list. The list drop-downs in 2014 are broken because Microsoft .NET Framework 4.5 breaks them. So if you uninstall Microsoft .NET Framework 4.5 and install Microsoft .NET Framework 4.0, these will go back to working. However, for those of you who just wrote that down, put a big X through it, because here's why. If you uninstall Microsoft .NET Framework 4.5 from your AutoCAD Release 14 installation, you'll break everything else in the installation. Civil 3D stops working, and everything else stops working.
You can't imagine the depths of despair I'm feeling right now.
And when we found that out, yeah, we were talking to the folks at Autodesk, and he says, oh, here's how you fix it. Now, don't worry. The programmers at Autodesk are aware of this. They are fighting furiously and working hard over the weekends, I'm sure, to fix this and to send out a hot patch or a hot fix or something. But when he said that, I just stared at the phone like, you've got to be kidding me. That's not an answer. Okay. So anyway, to get these back, wait a little while. Or if you're on 13, if you're on Release 2013, all of these little drop-downs will work. So you can play with this all day long. Now, the other cool thing is, and because I'm running out of time, I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit. Let's say that we've done this and we've built the Warren new. Now I need to add some new stuff to it. I can keep adding to it, and I can keep doing that schema swapping to change names until I've got a really cool database. Somebody comes along and says, I want your lots, just the lots, and I want it out as a shapefile. Or maybe they want all of them. Unfortunately, for a shapefile, you can only take one feature class at a time. So you can load up your schema, but you've only got to pick one class at a time to export it to a shapefile. Okay? There may be instances when I don't want certain attributes to go with it. So I can uncheck on the left the attributes that I do and do not want to go with. And then more importantly is, if I do have an attribute that I'm exporting, and the name of the attribute is got spaces, or it's over 10 characters in length, I cannot export that to a shapefile. So I come over here, click in it once or twice, and rename it manually. So when you need to share your data and throw it out to somebody as a shapefile, go ahead and do that. Use this bulk copy just like I've shown you here. You're going to connect to your existing data. I'll show you how to make a shape connection here. You're going to rename the things that you want, and then you're going to save what you've just done so you never have to do it again, and then you'll hit copy now.
Wait, you said you have to rename it manually. Why do you have to call it manually?
Yeah, unfortunately, M-A-N-U-A-L-L-Y, because it's under 10 characters. No, you're not going to rename it to manual. So you rename all of these things, you save all of your changes. Yeah, I couldn't resist that one. And then I'll be quite honest, you want to check all three of these boxes because they will stop you if there's a slight error. Like if I forget to specify a coordinate system for my outgoing file, it's going to stop and kick me out. No. Insert errors, anything that could possibly cause a problem, rather than just fighting through it and ignoring it, the program's going to stop you. So I just like doing this, looking at the file, and then seeing what happened. Then you just hit copy now, you wait a moment, and hopefully it won't format your hard drive and crash your system, but it shouldn't do that. So when you do this, you can use the bulk copy to take your SDF file, build a whole new schema, and push it over to the new schema. To reorder the attributes, to change the names of the attributes, to remove some attributes that you actually didn't want. And then if you need to give your information out to somebody with a shapefile, you're going to use the exact same tool. Before you do that, by the way, in order to give it to somebody with a shapefile or as a shapefile, you've got to make a shape connection. So I'm going to say add a shape connection. This is the name of the file I want to send somebody, lots, parcels, whatever. And then I want to pick the folder, not the file. I want to pick the folder where I want this guy to go. So I'm going to go to my computer, and I'm going to do something real easy, like throw it in my temp folder. So it's going to create a lots.shp, shx, etc. in that folder right there. So I've made the connection. There's nothing there. I'm going to close it. And now I'm going to do that bulk copy that I just mentioned a moment ago. I'm going to say, okay, program, please take my existing SDF. My target is going to be the shapefile. I want you to take just the lots because I can't take anything more. Just the lots. I don't need the feature ID, just the area and the lots. Uncheck all these guys and hit copy now. Continue the bulk copy. 21 objects were copied. I now have a shapefile. I can give that to somebody. There's your shapefile. Here, go away. Quit bothering me. Now, boy, save and load. Save and load. If you're going to do this more than once, people are always asking me for a shapefile of my lots or my storm lines or my roads. Save these. Next time somebody asks you for roads, you hit load, the one that I called roads, and I hit copy now, and that's it. I'm done. And what did it do? Whoops, it placed my thing over here. Let me pull that over there. D, temp. Don't make fun of my temp folder. Yes, I know that there's a lot of junk in here. I got to clean it out.
What's that file? Beers of the World.
Storage places for beer. CAD-1. Okay, so there's my lot files, and that's what I'm going to give somebody. A reminder for those of you who have never been told this before, these are the only 4 files you give somebody. Thou shalt not give them these 2 files. They will mess them up. So don't give them the IDX or the CPG. You're going to give them the shape, the SHX, the PRJ, and the database. Just those 4 files, none others. Okay, so you saw editing the schema. That's how you're going to build on your GIS. Throwing the drawing objects in there, relatively straightforward, especially since I can keep appending to it. So I've got 15 projects, but they're in 15 different drawings. I don't want to have to combine them and blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about it. Open them one at a time, throw them into the same SDF, keep appending, keep appending. This is the power of it, though, everyone. You need to edit the schema so that you can add in extra information. So you can add those in, add in the drop-downs. You can also use the bulk copy to migrate one schema into another. Like I said, I've built my database, I've built my schema. I don't like it. I want to rename some things. The boss doesn't like it. So I'm going to use the bulk copy, the tool sets that I show you, and drop one into another.
Warren, we have a question from Chris. He asks, what would you use the same process to take tubular information? Tabular, excuse me. I was thinking of surfing and I just...
Tubular, dude.
Tabular, sorry about that. Tabular information data for objects in one SDF and copy the data into another SDF of similar drawing objects?
Good question. Unfortunately, if what you're looking for, Chris, is to, I've got two SDFs of objects, and over here on the left, I've got all the tabular data, and I just want to grab it and push it into the other one. You can't really use this system for that because adding in attribute data on existing objects is very, very difficult. However, comma, if I've got two SDFs and one of them's got all this cool information, but I just want access to that tabular information, I would use a database join. So by using a database join, yeah, something like the join command in Esri. So and we can do a database join inside the program. I'm going to Alt-Tab over here. So all I have to do is I have to make the two connections, just like I've got here. And in this one, pipes, I'm going to come down and say create a join. And I want to create the join from my Warren new to my, what was I doing? Schema pipes to my line storm. And I need something, I need some key field between the two of them. Usually it's going to be the ID. And then I'd say OK. All right, and then what happens is, in my original pipes, I didn't have any of the extra data, but in my new pipes, I've got all these extra attributes. So basically, that's your join. You'll perform the join. Now, the cool thing is that you can join off of shapefiles, join the data off of SDF files, off of Access databases, as much as I hate to say this, Excel spreadsheets, or a lot of other sources. You cannot edit any of the join data, but there's a lot of things that you can use it for, queries and theme mapping and everything else. So hopefully that answers your question. It looks like it does, because it looks like you know the join command in Esri. We've got the exact same thing.
Chris says, great, thanks. Thank you, Chris.
So you use that bulk copy to migrate those schemas into another, and you can also use that bulk copy to export your information into a shape file. The first thing you need to do is make that shape connection like I mentioned. You're going to give it the name of the file that you want to use. You're going to connect to a folder, not a file, and then you're going to use the bulk copy tool just like I showed you a moment ago. When you do that bulk copy and point to this folder location or this name, it will populate that folder with SHP, SHX, everything else. It's a quick recap. The benefits of building your free GIS is SDFs are free. So and the cool thing is that they use SQLite for the database. I don't know if anybody knows that, but they use SQLite systems for their database. So as far as the size goes, you're pretty much unlimited. So you can throw anything in there. Use export to create or add to. Remember, append in SDF, but don't panic if you make a mistake. You always want to make backups, but if you make a mistake, you can always use that bulk copy to clean up what you're doing. You can use the schema editor at any time to add or enhance your attributes. So if somebody comes over and says, hey, install date would be a cool one to add in there, throw it in there. Use bulk copy to rewrite your schema or to export it to a shapefile. Just the most important thing about the shapefile to remember, everyone, 10 characters, no spaces. And that's for the names, not for the values of the attributes. Like if somebody's got address and they have their addresses, the addresses themselves can be 100 characters, but the name, address, 10 characters, no spaces. So don't get too crazy with it. You don't want to have to clean this up all the time. But there's no reason that you can't go in there and get a little creative with it if you want.
And it's important to know that if that $100,000 database that Warren mentioned earlier is looking better and better after this webinar, we may be able to help you with that as well. No, it's important for you to realize that if you'd like more perhaps training or maybe a little bit of mentoring on this process to set up, maybe a more complex system within your own organization, we can certainly help you with that as well. So give us a call if that's something you'd like us to do.
Yeah, and for another thing people often ask is if I start with an SDF file, but then I decide to go to something else like Oracle, or maybe I want to go to Esri, am I throwing everything away? No, I just showed you bulk copy 3 or 4 times. Guess what? You can do the same thing. You load up your Esri database, you bulk copy from here and drop it into there, and then you're off and running. You're not losing this data. The only thing that you can't do, unfortunately, yet, and y'all can yell at Esri about this, is Esri cannot read SDF files. Even though an SDF format is open source, they refuse to read them. So as soon as they read them, we don't have to do this jumping through hoops to give them a shape file. We can just give them our SDF database. And I'm looking over there. Chris does SDF file retain 3D information. 3D is still a bit flaky. I'm going to answer that as yes. SDF is capable of, what is it, the X, Y, and Z, and M, which is the measurement attributes. So we'll hold on to all of those as attributes. I'm not exactly sure how to extract that data, but as long as it's 3D, it will pull that information into it.
All right, so looks like we don't have any other questions. Thank you, Chris, and thank you all for joining us today. We will have this recording up on our YouTube page within a few days here, so you can check back on our website and see the archives there. And let's see, Warren, is there anything else? We've got Facebook, Twitter, C3D Plus. That's Brian Haley's blog on Civil 3D, a very good blog.
Yeah, let me tell you, if you all have Civil 3D, for anybody who has Civil 3D, please keep going up to Brian Haley's blog, because remember, Brian Haley is doing that as an individual, not as an employee of CAD-1 or Autodesk reseller. So everything he says is true, and he may say some things that other people don't want you to know, but you need to know these things, like if there's a bug or some problem. So Brian's got an excellent blog there where he can definitely talk about it.
Yes, it's true, unlike an Autodesk dealer.
Yeah.
We don't know when we're lying.
Yeah.
So anyway, classroom training, custom in-person training and mentoring programs, implementation, setting up programs like this, we can certainly help you with that. Online monitoring, mentoring, if you're up in Craig or somewhere away from Denver and you'd like a few hours of time, we can use GoToMeeting to help you with that. And we have award-winning, excellent tech support here at CAD-1, so if that's important to you, please call us and we'll get you on a contract. Thanks very much.
The most important thing here, if you want more information about what we talked about, there's our email address, or you can give us a call. There's our main office number. You can ask for Stan, you can ask for Warren, you can just say, hey, give me somebody. And also, I like to throw this out there, if you've got any ideas that you would like to see for a future webinar, and as much as I hate saying this, yes, webinars are free training, folks. So if there's anything you want to see in one of these hour-long webinars, send us an email at info@cad-1.com. Give us some ideas.
Thanks very much, and we'll see you on the flip side. Bye now.